Okay. As one family traversed from the Midwest to join other families, who together would become pioneer families of City of the Lord, others joined them. Informal discussions about education ensued, and soon they began to dream of establishing a private Catholic school in the classical liberal arts tradition. John and Rosie's living room became the meeting room for these visionaries, and from their multiple meetings, deliberations, and discussions came the decision to start a charter school named Tempe Preparatory Academy. This school and the subsequent vision, which has expanded into the Great Hearts Academies, grew out of the Evans' living room and has blossomed into a vision for education meant to bring so many more young minds to the study of the great classical liberal arts tradition. To honor John for his role in this vision is Jay Heiler, current chairman of the board of directors of Great Hearts Academies.
Thank you. Jack and Rosie, my thoughts are so scattered right now that I can't begin to describe the entropy in my head. And it's been like that every time I sat down to try to order my thoughts about what I wanted to say. And so after several hours of that, I finally asked myself, why is that? It's not usually the case. You know, despite my advancing years and my ADD, it's usually not that bad. And so then it came to me, it's that bad because it goes back so far and it goes so deep that it's difficult for me to plumb it and draw it forth. And there are so many different things to try to convey that it's really quite beyond me, but I'm going to try the best I can. The one thing I knew I wanted to say and the one story that I knew I wanted to tell was the one that Rosie conveyed, and I'm so thankful that she told it because I could not have given it justice. But that story, when I heard it, not long after the event happened, had a profound effect on me. You can't make up a story like that. I would submit to all of you that that is one of the most remarkable tales in all of human existence that we have ever heard. It's just really astonishing. And there's so much in that tale about Jack and Rosie and their faith and the animation of their faith with goodwill, even unto the point where they affect the possible salvation of someone who might just as well have raped Rosie and murdered both of them. Now, you can't make that up. But you really can't make any of this up. If you look around this room at the people sitting here, and I would submit to you that, you know, it might be possible to collect 200 finer people in America today somewhere, but it wouldn't be easy. You'd have to work really hard to do it. And perhaps the greatest tribute to Jack is that there isn't one of us, not one of us in this room, who has not been made better by our having known him or by our having known someone who knew him and fallen somewhere within the concentric circles of his extraordinary life. Every single person here has been affected by Jack. Now, you remember the movie It's a Wonderful Life? You know, in the eyes of modern Hollywood, probably the most fanciful, silly, crackerjack movie you can imagine. That movie has more profound truth in it than every movie Hollywood has probably made in the last 40 years. Because it conveys, just as Jack's life conveys, that if you lead your life in faith and in love and with goodwill, your life moves out in concentric circles in mysterious ways that none of us can really understand. And it bears profound consequences. And those consequences are only just now beginning. They're not ending. They're in their infancy. Great Hearts Academies is in its infancy. Len and Tracy, who Ben mentioned, are beginning to build another institution, the Arizona Christian College. It's in its infancy. Matthew Scully has gone on to do amazing things in American politics that have been very consequential and probably will do more things yet. There are so many people in this room whose projects are only just now beginning, a whole new generation following all of those people. This is the magic and the power of any good life, but it's especially the magic and power of a life in education, and more specifically the life of a teacher. There's no more grand adventure than that life. And Jack has lived that adventure, and that adventure is only now beginning to unfold. Now, circa 1997 or 98, there was a conversation held with the Tempe Prep Board of Directors that included the first enunciation of a vision that would become Great Hearts Academies. And most of the people who were in that conversation are in this room, if not all of them, including Jack. And if I could describe the reaction, I would say, if I could borrow a term from the criminal law, it was a good deal of reasonable doubt. And cautious apprehension at best, some out-and-out negative reaction. But there was one person there who reacted with great enthusiasm. Well, guess who that was? It was Jack. Jack immediately suggested that the concept needed to be further explored and that all the questions about feasibility needed to be put aside for a moment, and we needed to seriously consider whether this could be done. And that didn't happen for another couple years after that, but eventually it happened. And but for that spark of response from Jack, I'm not sure it ever would have happened. It may have not happened. Something would have happened, but this would not have happened. And so there was a very profound moment there, just like the moment that happened later on with Jack and Rosie in their own bed, where Jack's instant reaction had major consequences. And so, you think about teachers and academics sometimes as being soft or passive or meek. Well, that's not Jack. Jack Evans is a man in every respect of that word, in all the traditional high respects of that word. The thing that I thought was really cool when I was getting to know him, it wasn't how brilliant he was or how great he was teaching Shakespeare and Milton. The thing that really caught my eyes when I found out he could play first base, which he could really play, believe me. And then, you've also heard tonight in passing that he began his professional life as a lifeguard. And how appropriate that is, because how many lives did you guard for the last 35 years? And how many lives did you save? And you will die a lifeguard. You have made so much impact on so many of us, and that impact is now moving out farther and farther in more and more concentric circles. And so the vision for education, to come home back to that, everybody here knows what that is. Nobody really needs to be schooled on that. I'd love to talk to you all about the details of that for an hour. But the simple way to put it for you now is that very soon, hopefully less than a year from now, or about a year from now, we will gather everyone who's involved with Great Hearts Academies, all of the students, all of their parents, their siblings, families, faculty members, spouses, Great Hearts staff, spouses. When we do that, it's going to be about 18,000 people in one place. And we're going to gather those 18,000 people, and we're going to talk to them about what they're involved in and what they all have become a part of. And that's going to have a profound effect when that happens. And then we're going to do it every other year after that. And eventually, there won't be a place big enough for us to do it. We're going to have to do it virtually. And then we're going to have to do it across multiple states, because that's going to happen too. We are beginning now, we are only at the very early stages of a fundamental project that isn't about merely opening schools. It's about redefining for a new American century what education really means, just as it was defined in Jack's living room those years ago. And there is no longer any insurmountable barrier to us doing that. And there is no longer any insurmountable barrier to us having 50,000 and then 100,000 students in this state. And if we grow to 50 to 100,000 students in this state, there is no barrier to us growing to 1 million students across the country. There is absolutely nothing to stop us from doing that, except a lack of will or a loss of goodwill or vision. And that's not going to happen. And once that happens, it will all be traceable back to Jack Evans and his assertion of what a quality education was back in 1995 in Tempe, Arizona. And so you can't make that up. You couldn't write that as fiction if you were the most imaginative novelist alive. And yet, we are on the way to making that a reality. And so, Jack, you know, I think of so many things when I think about you, but I think about two things above all. I think about St. Paul's letter to Timothy, in which he said, compete well for the faith. That summarizes Jack. Jack Evans, make no mistake about it, is a fierce competitor. At his core, he is a fierce competitor. Even before he is a pedagogue, even before he is a literary intellectual, he is a competitor for his faith and for his convictions. And then, as long as we're here in Villa Siena, there is the quote from St. Catherine of Siena. If we would only be who God wants us to be, we would set the world on fire. How many people has Jack instilled that vision in? And how far will it go? You can't make it up. Thank you, Jack.